Okay, I decided to post this video to help anyone that owns a Ferrari California to change the oils on the DCT, the dual clutch transmission. I'm doing it because I couldn't find anything on YouTube that covered that. I did find a couple of videos on a Ferrari 458, which I think has the same gearbox, but the oil cooler is, I think, mounted in a different area on the 458. Whereas on the Californias, as you will see in a second, or if you may already know, it's actually attached to the back of the gearbox. And you have to be able to move that in order to carry out this particular job. It's not that difficult a job once you've figured out how to move that oil cooler. It's pretty straightforward. You don't need that many special tools. In fact, you don't really need any special tools. You just need probably what you've got lying around in your garage, a socket set, a couple of hex keys, things like that, which I'll go through as we go through this video. I'm going to start with the reason why I did the oil change. I looked in the manual. My car, you can see behind me, has done about 40,000 miles, and the maintenance schedule was a little ambiguous, saying that at 37,500 miles you should change the DCT oils, but only if you live in a dusty or sandy climate. I live just outside of Houston. It's hot, it's not dusty, it's not sandy, but that doesn't make a lot of sense to me because I don't see how you're going to get those things inside that gearbox anywhere. And I have three friends that have Californias. One who lives out in Dubai, his hasn't been done. It's done about 20,000 miles on that car. The two that live here in Houston, both done similar mileage, but both of those have had their oils changed. They say that the oils are supposedly lifetime, and I just decided to change them because I thought it was the right thing to do. I mean, I change the engine oil once a year, no matter how many miles I've done. So to actually have a car that's done nearly 40,000 miles with no record of having any of the oils changed in the DCT seemed a bit risky to me. So I decided to change them. The oils that I used, if you look in the Ferrari manuals, will say use a Shell Spirax oil. I couldn't find that, at least I couldn't find it in a quantity that I wanted. The smallest smallest container I could find was 50 gallons, and you only need a few litres to do this job. So after looking around, I decided to go with the Redline 75W90 GL5 oil for the gearbox. You'll need about 4 litres of this. I think the gearbox holds just around 4 litres, but you'll never get 4 litres out. It'll always pool in there, and I ended up using about 3.5 litres of that oil. Pretty cost effective. A litre is about 20 bucks, something like that. And for the transmission, for the dual clutch transmission, for the clutch, I used the Motul DC TF oil. Again, a litre of this stuff, I think I paid about 25 bucks for 2 litres, and I bought 8 litres of that. I actually got 6 litres out, so theoretically I think this holds 7.75 litres, but as I say, only got 6 litres out, again for the pooling reason. So those are the oils that you will need. You won't need anything else unless you want to buy new plugs for both the fill and the drain plugs, and the washers that go on those. When I looked at mine, they were fine, so I decided to reinstall those, and at this point I haven't seen any problem with that, no leaks, etc. They don't use crush washers. It looks like they use some kind of Teflon, very thin washer on it. It's actually green. You would see it if the plugs are out. So that's it for the materials. Let's have a look at the job, or jobs. This unit here is the actual DCT itself. This part of it is the gearbox. This part of it is the clutch. I'm sure you're probably already aware of that if you're doing this job. And I'm going to go through the gearbox first of all. First thing I want to say is don't drain any of these if you can't get the fill plugs out and back in. If you drain it, and then you can't get the filler plug out, you're stuck. You're going to have to get someone to tow your car or come around and do the job for you. So anyway, that's just a word of warning. And you should have absolutely no problem draining the clutch. You may have a bit of a problem draining the gearbox, and here's why. This thing that I'm pointing to here, this is the oil cooler. And if you just come around here, you can see this that I'm pointing to. This is the fill plug. And this is a 8mm hexagonal key. And you'll see that there's no way I can get that in there with this oil cooler. It's in the way. So what I did in order to, I needed to move this thing back. There are 4 bolts, 2 of them, around here. 2 of them are here, and then the other 2 are vertically above them. You can see this one you can't, it's actually hidden behind the hydraulic hoses, but the access is quite easy. They are 10mm nuts. What I did, I took both of these nuts off completely. I loosened these 2 to the end of the thread, and then I was able to put a little pry bar in here and gently just ease this thing back. It might be stuck at first because it's probably never been off the car, but it moved quite easily. With it being aluminium or aluminum, don't be too aggressive with it, but it will come out. And I was able to get about 1 inch of play on it, and as soon as I could get the inch of play, then this filler plug, I was able to get it out and get it back in. So I was then ready to get on with draining the gearbox. So with regards to that, there are 2 drain plugs. The first one is here, it's just behind this main cross section here. The second one, and there are drain plugs or plugs all over the place on this thing. So the second one is this one here. You've got like a 90-degree arc, which is kind of recessed up a little bit. So it's that plug and this plug. There are 2 drain plugs for the gearbox. What I did is I drained this one down first. I got about 3 litres or so out of it. As that started to drip, I then took this one out, put an oil catchment underneath it, and in total I think I had about another 1/4 to 1/2 of litre out. But as I say, in total I got about 3.5 litres out of there. I didn't warm the car beforehand. I just left it was cold, and I just let gravity do its job, and it took about 2 hours. I went off and did something else whilst that was draining down. Then I put both of the drain plugs back in and nipped them up. The torque on this is 25 Newton meters, which is about 19 pounds, both the same. And again, what I used for that was a M8 X nut, which just goes in there pretty straightforward. All right, then on to filling it. I used one of these pumps. You've probably got one. If you haven't, you can easily get one from an Amazon or any auto place. They're not very expensive, $10 to $12. You stick the top end where the pump is, which is the inlet. That's just going to go into your oil, and the outlet. That obviously that's the discharge. What I did for this, I didn't have these 2 pieces on. Come on in a second as to why. This will actually fit into the fill plug. And this thing pumps at a pretty good rate, like 5 pumps of this and you've got a litre in there. I put 3.5 litres in, and at that point it's starting to drip out, and that's what they say, that's all you need to do, is it just needs to be dripping out. So that tells you that it's above the fill point, and it's actually now, it's got enough oil into it. If you want to be safe, you could start the car, let everything turn around, make certain you've got stuff moving around. As I say, if you take 3.5 litres out, there's no guarantee that that's all you need to put back in. You might need to put 3 3/4 in, because you might have burnt a bit of oil, or some oil may have leaked, or the person who did it previously didn't quite put enough in. But as long as this thing is dripping out, as I say, if you want to run it, come back and check it again. If it's dripping, then you've got enough in. That's pretty much the job done. All you need to do is to reattach your bolts at the bottom and nip all 4 bolts up. I put about the same torque pressure. I couldn't find a torque pressure for these, but as I say, with it being aluminium, I didn't really want to go that tight, and they weren't that tight to start with. I put about 20 pounds on those, and that's that job done. Okay, on to the second job, which is the clutch fluid. This is the drain plug for the clutch fluid. There's only one. When I drained this down, I got about 6 litres out of it. And then the actual fill plug, you can see, is, where is it? Can't find it. Oh, it's here, sorry. So this fill plug I'm pointing to, this thing has kind of a tube in it. So it's like got a fill tube. It's about the length of your index finger. And what you do in order to fill it once you've drained it down, obviously, once you've got all the oil out of it, you're going to torque that up again. It's an M8 again, and that's again 25 Newton meters, or about 19 pounds of torque. Assuming you've been able, as I mentioned before, you can get this thing out and back in again, which you shouldn't have any problem. It's a slightly bigger hex bolt that you need. I think this is an M10. Yeah, it's a 10. Again, the torque on that is 25 Newton meters or 19 pounds. But filling this is a little bit more complicated. What I did, if you just stick your fill pipe in there and start pumping away, obviously you're going to push this in as far as it will go. The oil will cascade over the fill pipe and start to fill the clutch up. But because this isn't a perfect snug fit, it is going to come down the edges of the pipe, and you're going to have oil all over the place. So in order to limit that, what I did is I found this, like an old plastic bottle cap that was lying around. I put a reducing clear piece of pipe in there, so this I knew would then go to the top of the fill plug. I drilled a hole in the end of this cap, and I've actually got one here. This was what it was like before the other one I had just lying around. Again, it's about a 10 millimeter cap. I drilled a hole in it and just fitted over here so it was a snug fit. And then I had to kind of rub this down a little bit with some sandpaper, cleaned it off, just so it would fit in this hole nice and snug. If you don't have one of these lying around, or you can't find something that will do the job, a rag will do. Even, just trying to put some tape around it will do. But if you don't get that good fit, you are going to have oil spilling out the side. And that will create a bit of a mess. So I pumped in about 6.5 litres. Once I got to about the 6 which I'd taken out, I then pulled it out to see if anything came over the top. It didn't. So I put about another 1/4 litre in, pulled it out, nothing came over the top. I put another 1/4 litre in, so now I had 6.5 litres in, and then as soon as I pulled this out, the stuff just started cascading out of there, and it came out like a little fountain. That lasted for about 15 seconds, and then the fountain turned into a bit more of a drip. That's kind of where you need to be. There's a different procedure, though, that once you've done that you go through, and you're going to need a second person to do this. Get them to sit in the car, start the car. Obviously, you're going to have, because these are automatics, you're going to have, to start the car, you've got to put your foot on the brake, leave your foot on the brake, and you press the reverse button, keep that foot on the brake, and let the car warm. The fill plug's going to be out while you're doing this, and this thing should be dripping. You need to let the temperature get up to between 100 and 120 degrees. You should be able to tell that because on the display you actually have the coolant temperature gauge on there, and that's what you're going to look for. That's what's got to be between 100 and about no more than 120. You'll have to guess it because I think you've got 0, and then the next measurement on the gauge on the display is about 200, I think, maybe 250. So somewhere just below halfway. And at that temperature, so once you're around about 100, 105, this should be dripping out. If it is dripping out, you're good to go. Nip it up. If it's not dripping out, you need to put more oil in so that it is dripping out. If you get the engine too hot, my advice is switch it off, let it cool, repeat the procedure, put a little bit more oil in so that it's dripping out. But once you're at that temperature and you've got oil dripping out, then you're good to go. You can nip this up to the torque, 25 Newton meters, 19 pounds, and that's pretty much the job done. Obviously take it for a test drive. If, again, you're unsure as to whether you've got the right amount of oil in, let it cool down, take it out, repeat the procedure to 100, 105 degrees and see where you are. If you overfill this, I understand they have a vent point in them somewhere, but if you vent oil out of it, I guess so it stops it from over pressurizing. If you've got too much oil in there, then that oil's got to go somewhere, and it's probably going to go all over your engine or all over your gearbox and your clutch and spill out all over the floor. So that's probably not a wise thing to do. And other than that, you just got to reattach your plastic underside trays, which I didn't mention because it's so easy to get them off. They're just 10mm nuts. There's a whole bunch of them, but it'll take you 10 or 15 minutes to complete that. Last thing that I will probably make a comment on is this job's so much easier doing it on a lift, but you could do it if you just jacked it up and put it on axle stands. You know, if you jack the front up, stick axle stands underneath the back, jack the back up, stick axle stands underneath the support points on the car. The key thing is to have it level. If it's not level, you know, if it's tilted, you probably get more oil out of it potentially, but in order to fill it, you need to have that, it needs to be pretty much horizontal. You know, I don't think you're going to put something on it and make certain it's absolutely spot on, but as long as it's broadly horizontal, you should be fine. And that's about it. It took me all in all maybe a couple of hours, 3 hours to do it. I have no idea what Ferrari or a reputable garage would charge for it. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a lot more than the 150 bucks or so that I spent on oils. But anyway, if you choose to do that, that's fine. But if you like doing a bit of your own maintenance and messing around with your car, then hopefully this will help you. I think that's it. I do have a few more jobs I want to do on the car. I'm probably going to change the engine oil soon. If I do that, I'll maybe post another video just to hopefully it'll help people out. And I'm also going to do the belts, the serpentine belt and the water pump belt on it. That's a little tricky to do, not that it's a difficult job, but the access is awful on these cars to do that. The engine, where it's secreted, is back in the main engine bay area, and the only access to that is underneath the car. I honestly don't think you could do that without having the car jacked up on a lift. You may be able to, but you'll struggle because the tools that you'll need, there are a couple of tools. If I do it, I'll post what those tools are. I've actually just bought them to do it. You can't do it without them. I've tried to get them in, and I know I can get them in. Anyway, more of that if and when I get around to posting that. That's it. Hope this has been helpful.